welcome from the IPO Summit here at the New York Stock Exchange. I'm Jarrett Banks, editor at IPO Edge. I'm joined here by Juliette Han from Cambrian Bio. Juliette, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So let's get right into it. What are some areas of growth and innovation for biotech in the next 10 years?
I think biotech is at such a precipice of excitement right now. Personally, I'm mostly excited by preventative medicines as well as women's health, and my background being a neuroscientist in neuroscience and neurodegenerative diseases.
Fantastic. Now, this is about improving the quality of life and extending life. Is that correct?
I would say that our primary endeavor is to understand how and why we age and the mechanisms that we age to make sure that we're staying healthy longer. Now, secondary outcome of that could be us living longer, but I would say that our primary goal is to make sure as long as you live, that you're as healthy as possible. And we call that health span.
All right, great. Now, how should investors think about the biotech sector?
Yeah.
From retail to institutional.
Yeah, I think the market's taken a big hit in the last year for every sector, but I think that biotech especially so, especially coming out of the COVID, the boom time of investing into biotech, and we had that halo effect. But it's not, I think what many investors have learned who weren't in biotech before is how binary the risk is for biotech. So if you're in biotech and you invest in it, if the data is bad, then often the company goes down and you have lost your investment. So if you're a retail investor, it's really hard to get your head wrapped around that because unlike any other sector, so if you are a retail investor, I think it's something to be really attuned to and do your research and you understand the scientific data behind that and know what risk you're taking on. And I think if you're an institutional investor, this is when you get to distribute as much of your risk as possible and really think about the portfolio construction rather than really betting on that one technology because again, it is a binary risk.
All right, great. Now, you mentioned a little bit about your background. How does that inform your day-to-day duties at Cambrian Bio?
Actually, yeah, that's a great question because my background is in neuroscience. I have a PhD in neuroscience, and I think that is absolutely important and for me to speak the language to the scientists that I work with. So without understanding the scientific programs that I work on or what we're funding, I can't imagine how I can start to think about the business aspect of things, whether it be the financial planning, whether it be fundraising, even though I wear the hat of a CFO and a COO, that scientific language and being able to speak the language of what everyone else speaks in the company, regardless of what industry that you're in, I think that is absolutely critical.
All right. What are some challenges facing management in the biotech industry right now?
I think there are a number, and I would say that one, everyone's going to say talent, but that's for us too, especially because in the biotech space, you can't just train someone overnight to take on the scientific program. So we need people who are genuine scientists with years and many decades of training to really help develop the drugs and R&D. And that's a long pipeline, not just for the drug pipeline itself, but also as well as the talent pipeline. So I want as many aspiring scientists out there to get into it, and it's going to be an amazing time of progress for the next few decades. I would say talent and being able to attract great scientists to your program is absolutely number one. And number two is, of course, capital. There's been a lot of spooked investors in the last couple years, especially for biotech, so trying to raise, but I think it's also been great in that, the correction has been great in that the biotechs that are going to survive and continue to be funded are hopefully the ones that have great data and they can stand by that data so that even if the hype dies down, they have great data to stand on. So I do think capital and making sure that investors feel good about their investments are going to be a second challenge.
Let's talk a little bit about data. How does it inform decisions as a company? What sort of inputs are you getting to make those decisions?
Yeah, so I think that biotech data is absolutely true scientific data. So you need to bring in the veterans of drug makers to say, what do all the number of data sets look like in a data package? What does FDA want to see? What does the risk profile of this drug, whether it be PK, the toxicology? So these are some of the scientific jargon, if you will. So there's that robust set of scientific data that's required, but also what we're starting to see, and I have to say, ironically, biotech is a little late on this, is the AI game. So there's the forward-looking predictive data. So how can we think about the past knowledge and the past outcomes of other drug developments, and can we apply that to assess the true risks of the different programs? And we're only at the beginning stages of how we think about the predictability of our programs in that way. And also thirdly, there's data AI programs where they're trying to predict what kind of molecules or targets that we should be targeting, we should be going after. So I think that's still nascent in the field, so there's no reliability just yet that we can stand on. But I do think that in the next few years, we're gonna make great progress in being able to leverage that type of data into the R&D process.
All right, great answer. As someone who works at a biotech company, you know, how do biotech companies prepare for IPOs? What sort of milestones are involved?
Yeah, so milestones, so typically before COVID during the boom time, when they went to IPO, it was to go into clinical trials that were very expensive in the scale of $100 million, let's say. And in order to fund that, they would go take the company public and raise the money in order to push through clinical trials. And what we've seen when the market was flush with cash is that even preclinical companies were IPOing to raise funds. And what the outcome was that they didn't have enough data to be raising that kind of money. So going forward, though, what we're going to see is that, one, investors are going to prioritize companies that have more data and have progressed more before they really take it into public. Is two, there are ways to distribute risk within a biotech company. So let's say multi-asset model or multi-platform model. So there's multiple targets that the company is going after. There will be appetite for those companies as well, as we have seen. And I do think that three is going to, what is worth it when you put in an investment? Is the market big enough? Is your drug going to get enough of an ROI for the investor to really reap that benefit? So I do think that even if you're going to market with one particular indication, being able to show that you have future broadening market appeal, I think that would be attractive to investors for biotechs getting ready.
All right, great. Last question is a two-parter. What is next for Cambrian Bio, and what are you excited about for this year?
Yeah, so I am personally super excited, just as a scientist in general, as well as in Cambrian. So Cambrian focuses on age-related diseases, preventative care in the long run. So there are a number of mechanisms that we're only starting to understand about how we age, and there are a number of targets that we're really excited about. We recently announced a newest acquisition in Sweden in the cardiometabolic arena. That's super exciting for us as we prepare to take that asset into phase 2. I personally also am excited, not just in Cambrian, but also in the neurodegenerative field, as well as women's health, which is gaining a lot of momentum. And I hope that momentum continues this year as well as into next and future years, because there's still a lot of progress to be made in those two areas, as well as longevity.
All right, thank you so much. That was Juliette Han from Cambrian Bio. I'm Jarrett Banks, signing off from the New York Stock Exchange.